Trailers for both Mortal Kombat and Cruella hit the internet as Oscar-contender Nomadland premiered on Hulu this past Friday. I'm Darius Delsoin.
And I'm Joe Acierno. Welcome to Cinema Unchained. Alright, well, hello everybody. We've got a fantastic show for you today. We are going to be taking a look, or giving our thoughts on the trailers for both Cruella and Mortal Kombat that were released on the internet this past week and a half, whatever. And we're also going to be capping off the show with a review of the Oscar contender Nomadland, as it just premiered on Hulu this past weekend. Now, before we get into the trailer for Cruella, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all notifications, whether on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify Podcasts. And you see those social media profiles in the description below. Do us a favor, follow them. You won't regret it. Guarantee it. So, now, let's get right into it. Darius, that Cruella trailer. Before we get right into it, just... if, for whatever reason, you can't seem to guess exactly what Cruella is about, Cruella, of course, is the origin story of the iconic Disney villain, and yeah, that's it. That's all I got as far as to explain exactly what this is about.
So, with Cruella, the thing with this trailer that stood out to me the most was just how similar in tone it was to Joker. That's what I got from.
That's really interesting. I mean, okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I remember hearing about that this was gonna happen, but I'm gonna be honest, I kind of forgot it was happening for a while. Nonetheless, it was actually coming out in 2021. I just thought it was just amongst the millions of other projects that got pushed back however many years, unless this is one of the ones that remained unscathed somehow. Because once again, I forgot this was happening, let alone that it's coming out in May. And I see the trailer, Cruella official trailer, and I'm like, oh, wow, okay. And then, of course, I'm watching the trailer, I'm like, oh, boy, another origin story, he said sarcastically. We've never seen any of those before. So, I don't know. What do you think of this overall? Are you confident in it at all? Do you think it's going to be a run-of-the-mill, Disney live-action film?
I'm not necessarily... because the thing with the Disney live-action films, to be honest, I haven't really liked them all that much. Except for Maleficent to a certain degree. Mm-hmm. The Lion King live action I wasn't a fan of. There was a lot I didn't like about that one, actually. And so just in general, going forward with these live action adaptations, and even Cruella right now, they seem like they're just there for Disney to just have them, really. Obviously they have the money. Yeah, they definitely have the money to put a movie like this out there. But one of the things that stood out to me was that just how similar it felt to Joker. And I was like, okay, this feels like that movie, but it's definitely not that. It feels like they're trying to be that while still trying to be Disney, which I think is going to hurt itself in the long run.
Exactly, that's not going to work. Because with something like that, with something like Joker, it being rated R and whatnot, they can afford to be edgy and everything. And they can really dive into the depths of exactly all the issues and internal problems that Arthur Fleck had. Disney, considering its, quote, family-friendly brand that it has, they're not going to be able to go there.
Yeah, they're not.
So it's just going to feel undercooked overall, and it's just going to come off as just cartoonish, for lack of a better word. But, on the upside, I saw Emma Stone in this, and once again, like I said, forgot this was happening. Definitely forgot that she was playing Cruella de Vil.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, she might at least be entertaining to watch. I thought she was an interesting choice, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Emma Stone, to me, is one of those actresses that's just when she's on the screen in certain films, she gives it,
for sure.
And then for other movies, it's campy for a reason, like Zombieland, that sort of thing. So seeing her in the role of Cruella, one, I'm fine with that. I think she'd be great. It's just that, again, the tonalities of this film, I think, is really what's going to make this movie fall flat, because it's trying to take itself seriously while also, again, I think Disney being the brand that it is, and this film trying to push for that edgy tone, I think it's gonna feel messy at certain points in the film. Again, this is just speculation, but it's just that again, these are franchises that even we've known since we were kids. These are kid franchises, so it's interesting. Like, I'm fine with them going with this tonality route. This is an origin of Cruella, so I think that's pretty cool. She is a villain in general, so I think just in general, it's going to be interesting in going forward because one, you have the tonality differences. Two, it's still under the Disney umbrella, and overall, it looks interesting. Like that,
Yeah.
that's really what I got out of it. It looks interesting mainly because it felt like Disney's Joker.
Honest, and yeah, because, when it comes to the tonality of it all, most Disney films are either G or rated PG. The only way I can see this somewhat working with Cruella, again, this whole dark, edgy tone that they seem to be advertising, the only way I can see this somewhat working is if they go for the PG-13 rating. Because they're not going to go for
Yeah.
they can't go for the R rating. They're, strictly a Disney film. But it's not like they've never done the PG-13 thing before, because Mulan, the live-action Mulan, was actually PG-13, and that needed to be. Again, I didn't watch Mulan. I didn't hear, the best things about it, and
No.
still haven't gotten around to it, even though it's free on Disney Plus, which I do have. But that's the only way that this could possibly work with Cruella. But even on a story front, too, or on a plotline front, I'm just not sure that this can really go anywhere worth going. I'm like, all right, like, she loses her mind. What else? Does she climb up through, like, the fashion industry or something? I was a little confused by that.
Yeah, like it's like I said, this is definitely a weird movie, to be honest, in my opinion, because it's like I remember that they did first announce it and that Emma Stone was in it, but then we haven't heard anything since, or haven't heard a
Yeah.
lot, and all of a sudden the trailer dropped. And I'm like, wait, is this still happening?
Yeah,
Like,
honestly, yeah, that's pretty much how I felt too. I'm like, like I said, I forgot this, forgot this is a thing. This didn't get canceled. Like, they didn't sweep this under the rug.
yeah, for sure. And the thing is, I'm starting to think that a lot of these films that Disney is putting out, they may be going towards Disney Plus to a certain extent. I know, uh, there's friction at the Marvel side of things of putting their movies out on Disney Plus right now. But just in general, as far as the Disney live action stuff, it seems like they could go any route, and it's not a big deal for them.
Yeah.
So it's again, to me, this is just a weird movie overall, because it's like, why would you make a movie about Cruella of all characters in the Disney lock and safe that you have? You're gonna choose Cruella. It's interesting. I'm intrigued by it, but am I going to go see it? The trailer didn't do enough for me to maybe be like, I need to see this movie.
I'm at least intrigued. I'm like, okay, maybe they could go somewhere with this. But then again, that could just also be them putting together an interesting trailer as well. So if this
Yeah.
ends up being good, I'll be kind of surprised. If this ends up being bad, I won't be that surprised. But as far as the idea of making a film about the origin of Cruella de Vil, of all the Disney villains, I don't think that's necessarily the problem. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, all these origin stories, like, yeah, like, we've seen them a million times before. They're gonna feel like they just came out of a factory at some point. But when it comes to Cruella, I don't think the idea of making a film about her is a problem. I think the idea is that, like, okay, what you need to do in order to make an interesting movie about Cruella de Vil is kind of being sabotaged by Disney themselves, because
Exactly.
they can only go to that dark place to a certain extent. So,
Yeah, like I said, and I think that's one of the things that I have a fault with Disney to a certain extent when it comes to some of their other properties like Marvel and Star Wars, is that it's so stricted to that G to PG-13 rating that they can't stretch it out a bit more to rated R. With a bunch of characters I know from Marvel that I think would be great in a rated R setting, but now they can't do it because they're under Disney. So it's just in general, I think them restricting themselves as this family brand to a certain extent, especially if they're going to try and do more villain origin stories, I'm not saying it will, but could potentially hurt them. But at the same time, we have Maleficent, and people seem to enjoy that trilogy. So
I wasn't crazy, but number one, I didn't see the second one. I saw the first one. I'm like,
yeah,
I wasn't
yeah.
too crazy about it.
I mean, some people did enjoy it overall, so I mean,
Mm.
it was enough for them to make a sequel.
Yeah, like yeah, you're right. It made enough money that
Exactly.
it quote unquote earned a sequel.
Yeah, exactly. So it will also be interesting to see if Cruella does that, if it earns enough to make a sequel. But
Yeah, but
again,
once
we're also
again,
living in a pandemic, so it's gonna be a back and forth thing. So I mean, overall, Cruella, I was intrigued, but I was just like, eh. I don't think I'm gonna go into the theaters to see it. If anything, I'll wait it out or whatever. It's definitely not a must see for me compared to other movies coming out this year. So
yeah, I mean, like it's not a must see for me. Honestly, I'll only watch it just to review it here. Like, like that's like here's the thing. Most there are things I'm willing to see because I really want to see them, but there are other things I'm like, okay, I don't know if I have to see this, but I would like to talk about it on the show. That's where this movie is with me right now. And there are just other
yeah,
things where
same
I'm
here.
like, yeah, no, this isn't worth my time. Really not going to talk about it on the show. Even if I think a movie's going to be bad, and I could still have like a fun time just tearing it a new one on on the show. Like, and
Space
there's
Sweepers.
just other movies where I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah, Space Sweepers, but there are just other movies I'm like, no, this really isn't just gonna be worth my time. So this
hmm
comes out, and did they say anything about it going to Disney Plus?
I don't know.
Cruella?
I don't know. I don't think they said anything. Just that they dropped the trailer and that was it. I don't even remember
Okay,
seeing a release date.
okay, no, because it comes out May 28th. That's the release
Oh, it
date.
does.
I just don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't
On
remember them
Disney Plus, I don't
specifying
know.
in theaters or Disney Plus. So
Yeah.
May 28th, 2021. For all of you guys, what are your thoughts on Cruella and as far as the state of Disney live action reboots and origin stories overall? Don't forget to leave your thoughts in that comment section below. So, moving forward to Mortal Kombat. We finally got a trailer for that one. Darius, I'm going to let you take the helm here. Yeah, I'm going to let you take the helm here. For those of you who are listening, yes, he has worn a Mortal Kombat shirt. So, Darius, take it away.
Yes, so the new Mortal Kombat movie is coming out basically this year on April 16th, which is going to be a special day for me, for sure. And basically, this is a live action, the next live action adaptation of the popular fighting game franchise of Mortal Kombat, where a group of characters essentially are chosen to represent their world and to fight in a tournament to the death. So, if you're into martial arts, blood, gore, um, this might be the movie up your alley,
It's
essentially.
funny you say gore because they held nothing back in the trailer. Well, I mean, like obviously certain things would be spoilers, but in terms of like the gore factor, they didn't pull any punches. Because here's the thing, I watched the trailer kind of late because I think it debuted while I was at work. I hadn't gotten a chance to watch it until like later in the day. I go like I see on my IMDb feed or whatever news feed that the Mortal Kombat trailer dropped and it was like really bloody, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, like figures it's Mortal Kombat. They have to put that in the trailer
hmm
because that's the whole gore factor of Mortal Kombat. That's gonna be the thing that separates it from other video game adaptations, right? And I knew that I was getting into something pretty gruesome when I hit it. I click on the trailer and there's a red band, not a green band, a red
Yes, the
band,
red
and like
band.
that's that's how you know that you're into something a little bit more risque.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I think a lot. Me as a Mortal Kombat fan, this is one of my favorite video game fighting game franchises of all time. And seeing the trailer, to me, going into this movie, I'm like, okay, how can they treat this movie correctly from an adaptation point of view and treat
Mm-hmm.
Mortal Kombat as what it should be? This is a gory movie, a gory franchise, a bunch of deaths, a bunch of just over the top gore, and this trailer solidified almost every thing I was worried about. Almost everything, but in general, I was satisfied. Most of the characters looked absolutely amazing, almost ripped out from the game. So, from an adaptation point of view, right now, visually from the characters, they look great. And the thing is, here's the thing with more video game franchises in general: their adaptations have typically been either eh or bad. Right now, to me, I see that we have a two for two, and for some reason, I feel very strongly that this could be a three for three. And the thing is, for me, if the story is bad, I'm fine with that. Mortal Kombat in general isn't, especially when back in the day, wasn't really well known for the story, mainly for the gore. More
Mm-hmm.
recently, they have been getting more well known for their cinematic story in the video games, but it still had the gore factor because that's what made
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat Mortal Kombat. And so right now, for me, this trailer, absolutely nailed everything I wanted, if not more, because there was a surprise character I didn't expect them to put in at all. And if you guys have seen the trailer, it's freaking Prince Goro. Like, I didn't think they would put Goro in the movie mainly because they haven't really said much about a lot of other characters. So that was a complete surprise to me because if a lot of fans who Goro is, he is also an instrumental part in how Jax, one of the characters, loses his arms and gets the cybernetic ones. So, and that's another thing I wanted to touch upon as well, especially with adaptation in general. They always change origin stories. And so, one of the origins that they changed that kind of took me by surprise was how one of the characters loses their arms. In the multiple iterations, they had it was either Goro or another character, Ermac, that uses, to put it simply, without going too geeky, telekinetic abilities and rips his arms off. That's essentially how it goes. And so with this one, they changed it yet again. And I know a lot of people I've seen so far aren't too happy with that. Me personally, I'm fine with that, mainly because they changed it multiple times, so I don't mind the change.
Mm.
But another worry I do have with this film still is the main character, and that's Cole Young, which I'm a bit iffy on still. But overall, I mean, Joe, what did you think overall with the trailer? Because I know for me,
Okay.
I'm sold.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, you're definitely sold. So once again, I come from a very different perspective than Darius because obviously Darius is a diehard Mortal Kombat fan, and I obviously have. I'm not really. I've never really played the games. But so I can really just look at this from the idea of a video game adaptation because, of course, video game movies have not gotten the best reputation, and I guess to an extent, rightfully so. I think we all know about the infamous adventures of Mario and Luigi Mario from the 90s with the Super Mario Brothers movie. But like on the other side, you have both Sonic the Hedgehog and Detective Pikachu, which obviously not cinematic masterpieces, but significantly better than what most video game adaptations seem to be. And honestly, they were decent movies. They were actually good movies. They actually had a decent amount of merits to them. Now, Mortal Kombat, honestly, as far as what we've seen from this trailer, I do think that it could either be about average or possibly above average for a video game movie. As far as like a regular movie, like maybe it'll be average at best. It'll be average at best for a regular movie, probably slightly below average for that. But honestly, once again, we are looking at this from the point of view of that this is a video game movie. So, of course, this has to be graded on a curve to an extent. So, I'm intrigued. Like I said, I was surprised at the gore. The action, I think, looks interesting. Like, overall, this actually looks like a pretty competently made film. Once again, this is all speculation, too, because this is a trailer. But once again, is it competently made from the purview of just like, an average movie? Is it competently made from the purview of a video game adaptation? And just my expectations for it were kind of low. But now watching this trailer, I'm interested. I will more than likely see this in the theaters, most likely because I don't have HBO Max. So, but even then, like, I won't drag my feet to see this one. Honestly, this does look like it'll be a good time.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be seeing this. I mean, considering this movie comes out on my birthday, that's already a birthday gift in itself.
Yes.
So, like, to me, again, and for me, it's like, I'm fine if the movie maybe story-wise is bad. I'm to a certain extent, I'm fine with that, but at the same time, because it's an adaptation, I want to see these famous Mortal Kombat characters done justice. And I think that's what a lot of other fans are pretty stoked about too. And just from the trailer, it seems like it, and it also seems like Todd Garner, one of the producers, is also still holding back a lot of surprises that a lot of people don't know about, which has me even more excited. So this is definitely a movie I'm going to see in theaters.
It's keeping in suspense. And honestly, touching on one of the things that you said, so I was like, how you won't be as annoyed if like the story isn't as good because like you basically just want to see these Mortal Kombat characters brought to life and done in somewhat respectable fashion, even if like
I'll
the rest
be shocked
of
if
the
the story is good. But right
like,
now, I just want to see the characters done justice.
Because here's the thing. And once again, I'm coming from the point of view that I'm not a Mortal Kombat fan. I want to see a good movie. Story is the most important thing. So, of course, if the story sucks, then I will be annoyed. But especially since once again, touching on another point that you said, as far as like how the earlier video games of Mortal Kombat weren't really known for their story, but their stories have gotten more, again, to use your words, cinematic over the years. And with the newer games, if they can do that with the newer games and bring in a better story, why can't they further improve upon that when you're making a movie where story is the most important thing? So again, if they don't really sell the story that well, then it's just like, come on, like, are you trying? I mean,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like for sure, I really do want the story to be good. For sure, as someone that loves storytelling and loves to see characters and are done justice, the story is important no matter what. And again, I will be just like how I felt with Detective Pikachu and Sonic. I was shocked. One, character adaptively were great, and then two, the story was and the characters were intriguing enough for me to care about them with their journey, which is why I really like those two films, not just as adaptations, but also just as a general movie. I thought they were pretty good, if not better than, definitely better than most game adaptations. But also, it's like, okay, they did the character justice, they did the world justice, and they just so happen to have a good story to go with it. And so, knowing that the writer of this film is also a huge Mortal Kombat fan has me a bit more hopeful in this movie, hopefully.
yeah.
Considering it is a lower budget film, it looks like they definitely used it.
Yeah, it looks like they used it. If here's the thing, I didn't know exactly what the budget was for this film. Honestly, the fact, even though that this is a big action movie, action fantasy film,
Yeah.
the fact that the film does have a lower budget doesn't surprise me at all. Because once again, it is a video game adaptation. It's still a risky bet to say the least. Even though, to be honest, with a series such as Mortal Kombat, and this is done somewhat decently, there are a lot of people that are going to want to go see it.
For sure. So, I mean, overall, I'm excited. That's gonna be a great day for me. That's all I know.
Yeah. I'm mildly intrigued. Here's the thing, I can't see this one by myself. Like, there's certain movies that I want to see so badly that I'll go to the theater for by myself. I'll sit down and watch by myself.
With me.
Yeah, no, yeah. Let me know exactly when you're going, because this isn't something that I want to see by myself. Like, I'm not a big enough of a Mortal Kombat fan. I'm not crazy about this movie enough where I have to go see it by myself. But
Yeah.
I am intrigued to say the least. Like, I do want to see it with a few of the guys for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I will definitely let you know.
Yeah. Keep me posted. So, anyone, thoughts on the Mortal Kombat trailer? There have to be a lot out there because this thing seems to have blown up the internet. Leave your thoughts in that comment section there below. And before we cap off the show with a review of Nomadland, once again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all notifications, whether on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. And those social media profiles in the description, they're not there for no reason. Follow them. Like I said, you will not regret it. So, once again, capping off the show, we are going to be reviewing the film Nomadland. This film is about a woman who, in the midst of the Great Recession, she ventures across the American West as a van-dwelling nomad. The film is directed by Chloe Zhao and stars Frances McDormand. Now, the reason why we're reviewing it now, because it had been making the film festival circuit in 2020, and I guess having limited theatrical releases here and there. Of course, we have not gotten a chance to see it because we're not big enough to get just press for film festivals, and obviously they're not opening up those venues for everybody, and the showings in theaters were very limited for a while. So, Darius, what did you think of this movie?
I will say my favorite part of the film was honestly
And no spoilers.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm definitely not gonna spoil.
For some reason, like, I thought, I'm like, is he gonna spoil it right now? We haven't done that in a while, so I don't know why. I don't know why I thought that. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, yeah. I mean, my favorite part, honestly, was actually the score, which I didn't think I would love as much, because there are times when during this movie I would actually close my eyes, and the score just helped sell what was going on. Like, I already knew, like, they definitely set up the world and her struggle in the beginning. And then from time to time, I would just close my eyes and listen to the music, and I'm like, oh, this is godly. And I would imagine where that scene is, and I happen to open my eyes, and I'm like, wow, that is weird. I actually thought of this.
But no, honestly, yeah, the score was really nice. And if I had to use one word to describe this entire film overall, it would be authentic. It was authentic in every way, shape, and form, from the characters to the emotions to how the story moves to the dialogue. There are a lot of emotional moments in this film, but they're not like flashy emotional moments. They're not flashy emotional moments, and they kind of sneak up on you. There usually isn't so much build-up to them. and that's what makes this feel more lifelike than anything. It makes it
True,
feel
for
all the
sure.
more human, yet somehow cinematic. It's like a lot of times there are cinematic movies that are trying to be cinematic, and like of course it works anyway. But there are movies that aren't so obvious that it's trying to be cinematic, and this is one of them, and it works so well.
Yeah, truly. Like this movie definitely had a authenticity to it and a realism that you believe because
Hmm.
just and I think a mixture of it also goes to some of the setting and even some of the color palette that they went with,
Yeah.
which I thought was just absolutely masterful. And so overall, for me, the main character, she absolutely nailed it. Definitely felt her emotions and felt her going through stuff, even when they didn't explicitly say it. You can see it, you can feel it, you can hear it, and I very much appreciated that. And so, there are times when I did feel that it did drag a bit much,
Hmm.
mainly because I thought this movie was longer, to a certain degree. And so when I got to the end, I was like, wow, this was a shorter movie than I thought. Which, again, that took me by surprise just because of how much time they spent with the character and seeing all of the supporting cast and just how she was growing in general. And there are a couple scenes that I really liked where she was very hesitant and resistant, and then you see the end, and I was like, that is great. I like that. So now it's like it opens your mind to where she could possibly be going, and I like that type of ending as well.
Yeah, it's ambiguous in a way too. Like it's not really like you don't have like too many concrete questions, but it still gets your mind wondering as far as like, okay, what's next for her? As far
Yeah,
as the character herself, or really just the characters overall, and I guess at the forefront, the main character Fern, played by Frances McDormand, who's absolutely terrific. The characters and all, they're very. Here's the thing, like I said, they're not flashy. Like the movie
yeah,
overall isn't very flashy. Like they're ordinary in the best way possible. And once again, this adds to that overall authentic feel. These conversations that these people have, once again, the dialogue makes it all, the dialogue and just how they talk to each other, very
for,
authentic feel. And
yeah,
as
for
far as like
sure.
the color palette that they use, like I'm writing a road trip feature myself, and the aesthetic that this film uses, that's exactly what I had in mind for the film that I'm writing. This movie is absolutely gorgeous to look
That's
at. Like
weird because as I was
the American
watching it, I
landscape.
was like, this color palette would be great for your feature that you're writing.
Yeah, honestly, and like here's the American West, the American landscape is one of the stars of the movie if you really think about it, because it
Yeah,
pulls you in that much more. But once again, I don't feel like it's trying too hard to do so. Like it all feels very natural. It's cinematic. The entire movie overall is cinematic, but in a very low key way.
very much so. Like this movie, not just that, but also like especially when I say authenticity, I mean not just authentic, but also this is very much like you wouldn't think they're acting at all. Like
Yeah,
that's what
honestly,
I
I forgot
like.
they were
Like
acting.
the dialogue, the interactions, all felt so organic, so fluid that
Hmm.
to the point I was like, are they actually just talking to each other?
Yeah, like it almost had. Here's the thing: the camera movement, of course, was very smooth. But other than that, because like when it comes to documentaries, because this movie did kind of have that documentary fly on the wall feel. Like
Hmm.
documentaries, of course, a lot of times have shakier footage when they're filming like B-roll and stuff like that. This movie, of course, had very smooth camera movements. But just like the overall feeling of the movie felt like you were in the room. You were in the room. You were driving behind the van that she's driving. You were, you're just there. You feel like you're actually there yourself. This movie has it manages to feel both epic and intimate. And once again, that's one of the feelings, that's one of the vibes that I'm trying to go for with the road trip feature that I'm writing. And when a movie can accomplish that, like I think that's really a thing of beauty. Because like usually epic and intimate, like they tend to be opposites. Like you don't usually think of them going hand in hand, but when they do and they find a way to make them go hand in hand, like I think that's really something special. And this movie absolutely did that.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I think one of the biggest issues I had for me personally was just some not entirely some of the pacing, because at times either it felt rushed or it felt too slow, and there were times where it's like, okay, I get it, I just can we move on a bit more or whatever. But at the same time, even as I'm thinking that, a performance comes up or a moment, I'm just like, oh, never mind. You know,
It's
I'm
like, oh
so just
shit,
keep going.
never mind.
I don't care
And again,
now.
that's the thing too. These moments sneak up on you, like I said, like in life itself. These moments, these emotional moments out of nowhere that they kind of swell, but they're not like flashy. They're not over the top. They sneak up on you because in life, there's no build up to these sort of things a lot of times too. Like
Yeah,
they kind of just happen at the moments where you least expect it. And as far as the pacing, I could understand where you're coming from as far as it feeling a little slow here and there, but to counter that, I think it was one of those movies that kind of had to feel kind of slow because your journey has to feel like a journey. Again, this is
yeah,
another movie that
exactly.
if this felt too quickly, then it wouldn't have had the same impact.
Yeah,
But
like there's
I am happy that I watched this by myself for that reason. Like with Mortal Kombat, with like what we were
yeah.
just saying, like that's a movie I need to see with other people. Like that's a movie that you just watch with the guys or whoever. This one, I'm happy I watched by myself because I would have been worried, like, oh, is everyone else enjoying this? Oh, is this a little too slow for them or whatnot? So I'm happy I watched this by myself.
Yeah, same here. Like the thing is, like there was a moment where that I was liking the movie, but I didn't quite get it, and then I paused it and I thought of the title, and I thought of the movie, and I'm like, you know what? Never mind. I'm gonna go back in with this mentality perspective now, because like it is a she is a nomad essentially. You know, like it
Yeah,
is
and it has to feel
lifestyle
like
that she's
you're walking
pursuing.
with a nomad. I mean,
Exactly. She is alone. She's by herself. She's going from multiple different things job to job. It's a very organic and emotionally intriguing film because of these moments that sneak up on you. And
hmm
like you said, Joe, those moments, like I said, for me, at times I was like, okay, it could be fat, and then all of a sudden it happens. I'm like, never. You know what? Like I said, overall, there's still some moments the pacing did feel a bit off, but I can gladly just be like, I could take that off because overall, this was one of the most human stories I've ever watched, and that's really
Yep.
the key thing. It was one of the most human stories because it very much felt like real life to in a certain extent where you have struggles, you have this. Oh hey, money's involved. You gotta have money.
And even then, there's like a
It's
modern
not
historical landscape that this is set across too, and I think they play with that very well. It's not really thrown in your face, but you're aware of the fact that it's a part of the story. Again, this is against the backdrop of the Great Recession, and it just pulls you in that much more. And once again, it pulls you in. It's very effective at pulling you in, but it's not obvious that it's trying so hard to pull you in, which I love.
exactly.
It's not begging
Like
for your attention.
for sure. And this movie just I really enjoyed it
I loved
overall.
it.
And honest I felt at peace because of the score. Like I said, the score was absolutely phenomenal that at times I will close my eyes and just listen to the music. And it's like that already drives me further into the story. And
hmm
so like overall I absolutely really enjoyed this movie. Really liked how organic and human it felt compared to a lot of other films that are out there that are very fantastical in their nature, that have human elements, but overall more fantastical than anything else. So for this movie, this definitely help even me ground myself a bit more in reality, and just overall, just a great experience, peaceful. Uh, definitely, I would say definitely watch this on your own for
Yes.
sure, not with other people.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny that you say that this movie's so human in the midst of so many movies out there that are just more fantastical than anything. The director of this film, Chloe Zhao, she is actually directing Eternals in the Marvel Cinematic
I
Universe.
thought I recognized that name, the director's
Yep.
name for some reason.
And here's the thing: if she
Interesting.
really knocked it out of the park with this movie, as far as Eternals, bring it on. I can't wait. Now I
Yeah,
really can't
now
wait
I'm
for that
even
one.
more intrigued with Eternals now. If
Yeah.
because I forget because as I was going through the Hulu and I saw the casting and director, I was like that name looks familiar, but I didn't bother looking it up yet. So I was just like I'm just gonna watch it. And now that you bring it up, I was like oh. But here's the thing, like from the director's point of view for this, it was very she did a great job directing it. It was the
Absolutely.
thing that made this feel human and organic as well was really the writing, and
Yeah.
that's where this movie excels in exceptionally. Like it's just near flawless, really. like I said, this is a very human story. This is a very human, organic, grounded movie that everything didn't look or feel as if they were acting. It was just feeling as if they were capturing someone going through struggles, and we're just seeing it in all its glory. So with that, and Chloe, she did a great job encapsulating that as a director for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you're saying, okay, she's doing Eternals, who's the writers on Eternals? That I don't know yet.
I don't
That
know
still
either.
have to
I
look
don't
up.
know. But like, of course, like as we know, like the director has like such a big influence to the creative vision for the film. So
For
the
sure.
fact that someone like her is obviously very talented. I haven't seen any of the other movies that she's done, but based on this, she's obviously capable of amazing things.
Yep.
So let's
For
see what
sure.
happens when she's given something like a Marvel film to helm. Like I'm excited now, to say the least. We haven't really seen much from Eternals, but
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Like this is the first Marvel Cinematic Universe film that I'm not going to be really looking forward to in a long time. Like not like to say like I'm completely lukewarm or anything. Like I don't care about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like I'm always I'm always interested for sure. But like now for this one, considering what Chloe Zhao can obviously do, I'm very excited for Eternals.
For sure. And I mean, just to piggyback off of what you were saying with the whole fantastical elements, that's one of the things I do have to give. And obviously, I think we're pretty much over with talking about Nomadland. But I think in general, going forward with films, if you can bring that fantastical element, like a Marvel movie or Star Wars, but still truly hone in on those human elements to to where it feels like it's just an organic conversation and debate, that's gonna excel so much further. And I think Marvel has almost pretty much nailed on that to a certain extent now, actually, because they've been bringing in people like Ryan Coogler, these up and comers, these people that have already made grounded, organic human stories in the beginning, and they're just like, hey, bring that talent, but to our Marvel property. So, and and you can see Marvel's on that trend lately. So it's gonna be interesting. But again, going back to Nomadland, this movie overall, I loved it.
Loved it.
10 out of 10.
I absolutely adored this film. This might have been my favorite. It's this against One Night in Miami for my favorite movie of
Ooh.
last year. It's really tough, but
Yeah,
I'm
that's
curious
tough.
to. Yeah, it's really tough. Like, and again, both of them are going to be going head to head when it comes to the Oscars and everything. If either one wins, one of those two movies has to be the big winner overall, and either one will be very deserving, I think.
For sure. If I had to skew towards one, probably Nomadland, just because it felt more complete and more wholesome and even more organic, especially with the
Yeah,
music, because that's really what sold it for me as well. It was that music that drove it home, and it like the story, the directing, the cinematography was
the
already like a
acting,
10 out of 10,
everything.
and then that score just went to like 20 out of 20. Like it's just elevated it so much further. Like I said,
Yeah.
I will gladly talk about this score over and over again.
It was really calming. It was really peaceful. And for any of you who got the chance to watch Nomadland, either miraculously at the film festivals or whatever events, if you managed to find a showing for it in the theaters, or if you watched it on Hulu like we did, what did you guys think? I really want to know exactly what it is that you saw or that you thought about Nomadland, because obviously we had a lot to say, and I have a feeling that you have a lot to say too. So type your mind in that comment section below. Now, that's pretty much the show for today, folks. If you haven't gotten a chance to yet, one more time, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell to get all notifications, whether you're on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Our social media profiles are in the description, so you know what to do from there. And Darius, honestly, great show today. I think
Oh
I think
yeah,
we had a great lineup today. I really do think we had a great
yeah,
lineup of
we
topics
definitely
today.
did. Oh, for sure. And just to truly end the show, dun 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 dun. Mortal Kombat theme.
I was gonna say, yeah, I had a feeling that's what it
Yeah,
was,
it
and I
was the
wasn't
Mortal
sure
Kombat
exactly
theme.
what to do with
I had to end it
it.
with that.
So, all right, until next time, everybody. This has been Cinema Unchained.